everyone, welcome to the 400th episode of the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and your co-host,
Kevin Toffel.
And we are so excited to have this show because it is our 400th show.
Wow.
And we've actually been doing it longer because we started this in March of 2015 after GigaOM, which is where we both were, imploded or exploded. I don't really know. After that went down, we were having so much fun, we decided to keep the podcast. So we started it up again at episode 1. So here we are today at 400, but then we also did like 100-something episodes before that.
Yeah.
You do not seem as enthusiastic about it. You're like...
No, well, I'm getting old. I never imagined we'd still be doing this show after another 400 episodes. I didn't think about it. Like, I don't put a shelf life on some activities like this. Like, how long will I do this? I don't know, but I did not.
You don't put a shelf life on hanging out with your friend and talking about IoT? Me either.
No.
Man, okay. So, again, I promised last week that I would sing, and I might still. Kevin, you going to sing with me?
I'm not saying no, but I didn't promise I would, so we'll see.
Okay. Maybe for the 500th episode?
I'll get back to you on that.
Who knows? Anyway, so everybody, thank you, all of y'all, for listening. If you've listened the whole time, holy moly, I feel like we should have a t-shirt for y'all. You should send me an email and just be like, Stacey, I've listened to every single one of your shows. Wow, thank you. Maybe I will get t-shirts. Anyway, Okay. We'll see if anyone has listened to all 400 shows. Not that I would quiz you. Not that I remember doing all 400 shows. But thank y'all for listening. And this show is going to be awesome, I guess. I mean, really, there's nothing more than...
Well, it better be.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we're not really doing anything special for the 400th show because...
Well, in a way we are, because we're on the same time zone, which is super rare. You're on the East Coast right now.
That's right. So if I sound a little weird, I should apologize right now because I'm recording from a hotel room in Washington, D.C., and I am here for a fellowship that I got on wearables and data privacy. So y'all can expect to hear a lot. You know how I love privacy and consumer rights, and that's kind of what a lot of this stuff is going to be about. So you'll hear more on what I learn here, probably next week and the weeks after. Oh, wait, but let's tell you about this week's show because it is a good one. If I hadn't been here in Washington, I would be in Las Vegas at AWS reInvent. So you're going to be hearing from us on news from AWS reInvent. We're going to be talking about should you buy a cheap smart plug right now with all the holiday discounts, or should you wait for Matter? We also have news from Habitat and from Samsung and their wallets basically getting access to door locks. Woo! We've got a lot of funding news, one from a Wi-Fi Halo company, another from an AI company, and one from a robotics company. Woo! And I am reviewing and talking about how I manage my smart home. So we'll be talking about what I'm doing with 2 devices, Everything Set and Firewalla. We're also going to hear from our guest. This week's guest is all the way from Sweden. We've got Rebecca Torman, who is the business leader at IKEA's Home Smart business. And she's going to be talking to us about IKEA's new hub and what they've learned in 5 years of working on the smart home. So a lot of really good things await you. Plus, you're going to hear from our sponsor, ARM. ARM was actually one of the first companies to sponsor the IoT podcast all the way back in the beginning. So we're kind of coming full circle. Thanks, ARM. And as we get started, we'll hear from another one of our sponsors. This sponsor has been with us for the last probably 2 or 3 years and really proactive here. So thanks. It is Silicon Labs. Thank you, Silicon Labs. Silicon Labs is a leader in secure, intelligent wireless technology for a more connected world. Their integrated hardware and software platform, intuitive development tools, and robust support make them an ideal long-term partner in building advanced industrial, commercial, home, and life applications. Silicon Labs makes it easy for developers to solve complex wireless challenges throughout the product lifecycle and get to market quickly with innovative solutions that transform industries, grow economies, and improve lives. Learn more at scilabs.com. Okay, reInvent. And I guess you would be doomed to hear me in a hotel room no matter what this week. Haha. Okay, for those who don't know, AWS reInvent is Amazon's big cloud computing conference where they talk about just millions and millions and millions of product launches. So first up, and we're not going to cover all of the news. We're only going to cover the super IoT specific news because there's a lot. On the IoT side, they've announced the general availability, so GA, of version 5 of the MQTT message broker. And MQTT is a super popular communications protocol for IoT. I mean, I've used it in my home. Businesses use it. Industrials use it. It's just, I feel like it's like the most popular, but I could be wrong. MQTT 5 brings a bunch of like QA stuff. Kevin, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I should mention that this standard was actually ratified back in 2019, March of 2019. So I'm a little surprised that
the pandemic
Amazon
got them.
I guess it did. But I mean, these are more like, I don't want to say quality of life improvements because there's more to it than that. But that's on the face of it, that's a lot of what is here. They've brought enhancements for scalability, improved error reporting, performance improvements and support for smaller clients, and also messaging. I mean, it's a message broker, so messaging is obviously important. There's some more fallbacks or ways to manage messages so that you could, have it just delivered one time only, make sure it's delivered at least once, or just keep trying. I mean, there's lots of ways you could implement this, and AWS IoT Core has, adopted these as well. Just to speak to how old and how, I don't want to say popular, but how ingrained into the industry MQTT is. Are you familiar with who most of the authors are or where they're from? What company?
IBM?
Good call.
I have been writing about MQTT since 2013. And some of
I couldn't stump you.
Yeah, dude, I'm old and ancient.
I'm not just old,
Exactly.
I'm ancient too.
Yeah, I've been doing this for like 500 episodes, Kevin. Come on. The founders of MQTT, we've actually had them. I've had them on the original IoT podcast when we were at GigaOM. Nick O'Leary and, I cannot think of his name. I'm really sorry. I mean, oh man. Again, ancient. I'm ancient.
That was 350 episodes ago. Don't sweat it.
I'll remember it in the middle of the night. Anyway, yes, MQTT is old technology, but still good. And if you want a good way of like organizing your IoT stuff using MQTT, Node-RED, very fun. Okay, moving off of MQTT 5 support for AWS, they also added device location features to the AWS IoT Core to expand them beyond GPS. So you can use AWS IoT Core device location to find out where your IoT devices are in space. Well, not like space, but just in the world. And you usually were able to use GPS, but that is battery intensive and expensive. And now you can use new technologies like GNSS, which is also a satellite, but it's cloud assisted. So maybe you don't actually go out to the satellite. Wi-Fi, cellular, and even LoRaWAN. They've actually partnered with Semtech for that. So now you can use all kinds of things to find out where your devices are, your IoT devices are, and AWS will support that for you. So yay.
Surprisingly, you can't use Bluetooth. And I only mention that because the Bluetooth SIG has really been pushing and improving on its location awareness features. So I guess AWS is waiting for that to mature a little bit.
Yes, maybe. I don't know why they don't support Bluetooth. Maybe someone from AWS will give us a shout and tell us. So anyhow, that is so far what's happened on the specifically for the IoT front at AWS reInvent. We'll talk more about it. We'll probably also talk more about services. Like they've added some really interesting things for Kubernetes. They've expanded that. So now you can do like more different types of applications in containers using AWS, which is really important for like running IoT applications at enterprise scale. They've got some cool data features, like geographic features about where to use data. They've got some cool features about like managing your data lakes. So all of those are kind of related to IoT, but they're not specific to like IoT services. So we're not focusing on them here. Maybe we'll focus on them in the newsletter. Maybe we won't. But let us move on to something that maybe more of our smart home listeners are keen to talk about, which is smart plugs. And I don't know about you, Kevin, but I have been getting so many emails and ads for $5, $7 smart plugs. And I'm like, I just like, it's really hard for me not to click buy because, who doesn't need more smart plugs? I need smart plugs all the time. I love them. I use them for everything. I use them to set timers on like I have grow lights, not because I'm growing weed, but because I'm growing basil right now in my house, and other plants. My child has it on their curling iron so they can remotely check and make sure it's turned off.
But the Matter smart plugs are coming.
Yeah, so that's the issue. I'm like, do I spend $5 or $7 on a smart plug that isn't going to get Matter? And we've been telling everybody, just wait for Matter. We even put in our gift list a Matter smart plug, but it's $40, which is a lot more than $5 or $7. And so I'm like, should I wait for a Matter plug or should I just go ahead and buy an additional smart plug now?
Well, I think it depends largely on what you expect, you individually, not you, Stacy, but each individual person, what you expect to gain by having a Matter smart plug in your current house. Like, I have a smart plug. I set up the Christmas tree over the weekend, immediately put a smart plug in for the lights. And I set timers so that the tree lights up at sunset and turns off at 11 o'clock or so. I'm not going to gain anything by having Matter for that purpose, right? So I think you have to consider what new use cases Matter is going to enable for you, and do you need those in a smart plug? And if you don't, go drop $5 or $7 and, go to town, buy them.
I don't know what I don't know yet about Matter. So I think...
I hear you.
Imagine, I would say, a Christmas tree. Obviously, you don't need a Matter-enabled smart plug for that, right? You can just set a timer and let it go, right? But with Matter, right, your smart plugs will be able to talk to an array of sensors out there very easily, right? So if you stuck a motion sensor in your living room, or you already had one as part of your security system, and it was Matter-enabled, it could tell your Matter-enabled smart plug that plugs into your Christmas tree to turn it on whenever someone enters the room, and then turn it off. And I know our lights are LED lights. They don't consume that much energy, but I'm like, there's kind of some value in that, maybe.
You're right. It's kind of like you don't know what you don't know yet, because we haven't really seen or tested Matter out to figure out what new experiences it's going to enable or we want it to enable. So that's kind of the problem right now.
And I don't think most people are thinking about it that way. And I think what'll happen is most people will continue to not think about it that way. But then you'll end up downloading an app or a routine through, whatever your controller is. So maybe it's HomeKit, maybe it's Madam A, and it'll be like energy savings. And then suddenly you'll be able holy cow. When I walk into this room, my lights will turn on and they'll turn off when I leave. And I can save $5 a month on my energy bill, which I don't think most of us are going to be thinking about it that way. But I think having those devices just seated throughout our house are going to make so many really interesting options available to us, I guess. So that's what I'm thinking. So the point is, I guess if you want to buy a $5 smart plug and you have an immediate use for it, go for it. But if you're just buying it because it's cheap and you don't have an immediate use for it, wait for the Matter stuff, because you're going to want to have that stuff in your house, I think.
I think that's fair. And this was worth having a discussion about, because we've typically said for any device purchases, you probably want to wait for Matter. Maybe not routers, but everything else in the smart home.
And not cameras or video doorbells, because those are not supported yet.
Things that Matter does not yet support. Right, that makes sense. But it does support smart plugs, and we've still kind of lumped it into don't buy anything yet, wait for Matter. I could see an inexpensive smart plug purchase now and be okay with it, because it's going to provide the value that I want for the intent of that purchase.
Yeah, but then I'm like, okay, so I'll confess, the first smart home device I ever bought was a Wemo smart outlet. And I actually still have it.
It's a chunky monkey.
It's a chunky monkey. It was $50. Do you remember? So it was 2012.
I do.
It was $50. And I used it I bought it around the holidays and I plugged my Christmas tree into it. And it was pretty cool. I was like, ooh.
It had energy monitoring, I remember. And I don't think once I even did anything with that data.
Mine did not. And I did. I actually used it to I plugged things into it to see how much energy different things consumed, like space heaters or fans, or it was kind of fun. Anyway, No, my original one didn't have energy monitoring. It was just a remote control smart plug.
You bought the Wii Less one. I bought the Wii Mo.
Yes, you said
Comes with Mo.
So the point here is that I don't want you throwing away your smart plugs, y'all. That's e-waste. That's not good. So yeah, you have to
send them to Stacy. She needs more plugs.
All of my plugs are smart now. So they'll last a long time. So really, really think about this. Is it worth a $5 plug? Are you going to replace it eventually because it's so cheap? You're like, oh, it's only $5. I'll throw it in the trash. Don't do that. This is really hard for me. I can't tell you to generate more waste.
No, I can tell.
I know. Okay. These are the debates I have with myself over really inconsequential things, so y'all don't have to. So I'm going to waffle on this. I'm going to be like, I don't want you to buy a cheap smart plug just for the sake of buying a cheap smart plug. I want you to wait for Matter if you can. If you can't, I want you to commit to using that smart plug till the end of its useful life. Go. Okay, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something less confusing. Let's talk about Habitat.
Well, I wouldn't say less confusing.
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say. First of all, there's good news. And I'm going to preface all this by saying I reviewed the Habitat Elevation Hub pretty early in its life cycle. And for those who don't know, it is a standalone third-party hub with Zigbee, Z-Wave, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, I believe, and I believe Bluetooth. I mean, it pretty much has a whole complement of radios. It didn't at first. You had to add radios via a dongle, but it's gotten much better. It's like on sale now for $89.95 through the end of this month. And it's a nice option for people who want a standalone hub. The latest version of software, version 2.3.4, very easy to remember, adds a bunch of things, but the biggest one I think is Apple HomeKit integration. And that's, I think, very big. It's a whole new space for Habitat and the company and for Habitat users. So what's the confusing part? Well, Habitat apparently is trying to get this HomeKit certified.
That's good, right?
Yes, I would say overall, yes. What this does currently, it's not certified now. You can bridge Z-Wave and Zigbee devices into Apple HomeKit with the newest firmware. And you may be able to control and monitor Apple HomeKit apps, or devices that weren't compatible through the Apple Home app. But it's a little bit still of a lesser solution, I think, than, say, Home Assistant or Home Bridge. Home Bridge is a way to bring non-HomeKit devices into your HomeKit universe. And you would do that on your own hardware, like a Raspberry Pi or something to that effect. You run it yourself. There's tons of integrations that are like community built to bring in devices. Like if you want to add Nest devices, for example, to the HomeKit world, you can do that. The thing is, HomeBridge, Home Assistant, those are good solutions that currently exist today. They're not going for certification. So they actually have much more functionality than what Habitat is adding right now. And that's because Habitat is playing by Apple's rules. And I've read about some of them in the Habitat community forum. Some people are thrilled by this, and they should be. They understand this is a process. Other people are like, I think I'll just stick with my HomeBridge or Home Assistant solution right now and just deal with it that way. Just because, again, you got to play by Apple's rules when you get HomeKit certified, and that limits what Habitat can do right now.
Yeah, but it should be easier. It should be more secure. And you know what? I forgot this in our little smart plug discussion. I will remind everybody that if you pick a Matter smart plug, you're going to pick something that's more secure. And that's actually one of the number one questions I get when I'm asked about these things is, hey, I'm going to buy this random device that I don't know the brand of, and is it going to be secure? But it's so cheap, Stacey. And I'm like, yes or no? Anyway.
Good point.
So
good point.
Tying that to the HomeKit stuff, Apple does a lot of what it does. It usually does it for two reasons. One is to like enforce its walled garden. Two is its walled garden is nice because it is actually pretty secure and easy to use. So
I can vouch for that.
Like, that's why you hang out there.
You definitely can give up some control because you can only do what Apple says you can do. It's no different than iOS, right? You can't move your icons around on your home screen on your iPhone to wherever you want. They have to go. Apple will always order them. Your blank spaces will always be at the end, for example. It's annoying as all get out. But that's the Apple way. Same with HomeKit. You know, you may not be able to create a certain automation or something.
As long as you're living under my roof, you'll obey my rules.
Well, yeah, you know what you're getting into. If you can accept those rules, it's a great place to be.
True. You love HomeKit.
Yeah.
Well, also, Samsung. They have announced that their wallet inside their phone gets access to the first ultra-wideband equipped smart lock. Samsung has worked with a company called Zigbang If you're like, what? Huh? That just means if you have a Samsung Galaxy smartphone and you have the Zig Bang Smart Lock, you can now open that lock using UWB on your phone.
Ultra wideband.
Yes. And all ultra wideband is a radio technology. And it's really important to know this because Apple uses ultra wideband, Samsung's using it, and they're not the same ultra wideband. Ultra wideband just means you're sending little chirps of radio signals inside a wider band of spectrum. So there's a wide band of radio signal, and inside there's tiny little bits of data that go bloop, bloop, bloop. That's all it means. So
that was almost close to singing. That's good.
Yeah, it's the 400th episode.
Yeah. As a HomeKit user who has the Apple HomeKey, all of the people in my house that come and go all have iPhones and or Apple Watches with NFC. So we just put our phone or our watch up to the door lock, and over NFC, it unlocks the door. I love it. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. However, it would be really nice to have UWB implemented in a HomeKit door lock, because then you don't have to actually press up close to the door lock, which can be sometimes frustrating when you've got your hands full and everything else. You don't have to be right next to the lock with UWB, right? You could be walking up to the door perhaps and hit it.
Yeah. I don't carry my smartphone nor my watch. Well, I don't have a smartwatch that uses ultra wideband yet. Maybe one day I will. But yeah, this is useless to me, but it would be handy for other people. Kevin would love it.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about funding, because a lot of companies got a lot of money. So we'll start up with a robotics company. This is a company based out of Vancouver. It is called Sanctuary. It launched this spring with quite a bit of money. It has now raised over $100 million in funding, and it just got a $30 million grant from the Canadian government that is trying to fund innovation and innovative technology. And Sanctuary is offering generalized robotic intelligence. I mean, that's basically it, which is kind of, I feel like, a pipe dream. Kevin? Thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's what I would love to see as well. You know, what they're showing off, and I haven't watched the whole video, but there's like a 20-minute video of their latest robot, which is basically a torso, head, and arms with articulating fingers and so on. They plan to teach it how to do general purpose things. It would just imitate you if you showed it how to mop the floor, for example. Currently in the video, they're showing somebody, a human, controlling the robot through like an AR, VR headset and sensors. Don't know if that's how they're going to use it for the training or not, but they haven't delivered yet on what they're promising. So I'm skeptical. I'm hopeful, but skeptical.
I will say the founders, they have done some crazy blue sky stuff. So the founders of Sanctuary were also some of the founders of D-Wave, which was a quantum computing startup that was founded like 15 years ago. I mean, just like a really long time ago. You know, quantum computing has come a lot farther. It's a little bit more real than it was. So, yay. And then after that, they founded a company called Kindred that was also doing general purpose intelligence in robots, and that was acquired. They're people who are used to doing really hard things and spending a lot of time doing them. So it is, you know, if someone can crack this, great. It might be them. I'm not averse to people trying the hard stuff, right? That's how we get better and cooler stuff. So they got that grant from the Government of Canada, their Strategic Innovation Fund, and we'll see. Maybe I'll have them on the show to come talk about some of this stuff.
Or we can get a demo robot.
I don't think they're handing out demo robots. I could go, you know, if you want to come to Vancouver, come over to my neck of the woods, and then we'll send you up to Vancouver to visit. I'm happy to do that.
That I might do.
He loves robots. He really does. Probably, maybe this isn't the IoT podcast. This should be the Kevin Loves Robots podcast. I bet a lot of our audience would love, there's probably a lot of crossover there, Kevin. Back to IoT news. Morse Micro, which is a Wi-Fi Halo company, they have scored an additional 30 million Australian dollars, which is about 20 million US dollars in funding. And if y'all don't remember, Morse Micro is making a radio chip for Wi-Fi Halo. And Wi-Fi Halo is Wi-Fi for the IoT. And what I mean by that is it uses less energy than conventional Wi-Fi, and it travels further. So it is optimized to go a little further, so to work in basements or parking garages and places that spectral attenuation can happen and cause problems for traditional Wi-Fi. And it also has a longer distance. So this is good. They've raised a lot of money. I'm still real skeptical about Wi-Fi Halo, but the first chips are out there. We should see use cases coming in the next year. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm willing to be wrong on this. So, yeah.
Again, hopeful.
I'm always hopeful. I'm skeptical, but hopeful. That's this funding story. Actually, all of these fundings, I'm kind of like skeptical and hopeful. The final funding we have is a company called Deepgram. They've raised $47 million, and what they're doing is a new type of natural language processing. So NLP is the technology that figures out what we're saying to things like Madam A or Siri and translates that for them into, basically they take what we're saying and they say, oh, I will turn this into words, and then I will turn those words into action or transcription. So that is what they're working on, but they're going about it a little differently. Do you want to explain?
Yeah, so the difference here is that most companies focus on like a text-based approach. Deepgram says they're going with natural language processing through audio so that they can better understand nuances of intonation, how you say things, inflection, do some sentiment analysis, speaker labeling, summarization. And you've actually got a chance to play with sentiment analysis through one of the Amazon products in the past. And I think we were both kind of disappointed and freaked out by that.
I thought I was so mean.
Hopefully, yeah, she's not. I mean, I can give you sentiment analysis with Stacy, and she's not mean at all, Madam A.
Normally, yeah, the Amazon Halo had tone analysis as part of it. And when you turned it on, it would analyze what you were saying for tone. And a lot of times it thought I was angry. And I wasn't.
Well, how you were saying it too.
Yeah. I think this is interesting for things like if a voice assistant can tell when I'm asking a question, that's probably helpful for it. Because sometimes, I mean, a lot of times I'm actually asking a question. I'm like, Madam A, what's the weather? But also things like if it can tell that I am angry, like I tell Madam A all the time to shut the heck up because it's asking me, it's like, by the way, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
That would be useful information for it.
Sometimes I'm thinking out loud about things where I'm sort of asking a question to myself. Like if going back to the MQTT, when was the spec, when was it ratified? I could have just said, I wonder when the MQTT 5 spec was ratified. It would be interesting to me if a voice assistant could say, would you like me to check for you?
Would you like me to Google that for you?
Well, in a sense, I mean, sure, I know that sounds silly, but there are a lot of times when I'm sort of asking a question, but I'm not specifically intending to ask the digital assistant. I'm just like, my inner monologue comes out and I'm like, I wonder when that came out.
And you would like it to tell you that?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be always listening. That wouldn't involve a wake word, which would be kind of intrusive, I think, to many people.
Well, that's a whole nother can of worms there. Yes, I agree.
I was like, Kevin, are we sure we want that in our lives?
Well, honestly, if I got a robot to do all this for me, I probably would, because I wouldn't want to say robot each time or whatever name I gave it, Horatio, can you tell me what... I just made that name up. I don't know.
100 episodes from now, it'll be Stacy and her co-host Horatio on behalf of Kevin.
Hello, this is Horatio.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Hey, Kevin / Horatio. What? Do you want to know how I secure my IoT?
I do, because I know that you and I both used the Firewall devices, but you got a new device that I don't know anything about. So yes, please tell me.
Yeah, so this is going to be my kind of review / is it a how-to? I don't know. Anyway, I've used several security products because when we talk about security in the smart home, I think it's important to know a couple things. I think it's important to know what devices are on your network so you can see if anything that you don't anticipate is on there. And 2, I think it's really important to know or have a general sense of what those devices are doing. And I say that because, sometimes like your devices might like upload 8 gigabytes of data overnight for some reason. And that device is a smart plug. And you're like, what the heck are you doing? It's weird behavior. I think you should be aware of that, much like you would be aware that your drawer was unlocked or it was like a strange person is walking in and out of your house taking things. So I've been looking at a lot of options. One of the first ones I tried was just the Eero Secure service. They've raised the price on that. That is $9.99 a month now. It's not terrible.
I think you can get it for $99 for the year as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a perfectly acceptable option. And what it does is it says like, hey, this device just joined your network. And you're like, oh, I don't know what device that is. You can call your family and be like, did anyone add something? And then you can go hunt it down. You can also, for that subscription, see some of the data about like what devices are sending lots of data. That's also worth noting. But I don't love paying monthly subscriptions for anything because I am a cheap person. So I went out and bought a Firewalla. And I did that because you can see so much more information. Honestly, it's a little too much information. So probably for most people, for me, it's wonderful. So with Firewalla, I can see all of my devices. I can see how much traffic they're sending. I can see geographically where that traffic is going to. I have VPN services. Eero also offers VPN services. It is a very robust kind of firewall network monitoring software for smart home. And it's doing also DPI, deep packet inspection, to know what's happening on your home network. And that is a physical device you plug into your router.
It's also a chatty patty because you get tons of data, tons and tons, probably more than most people would want.
Yes, I get Firewalla notifications like every probably 2 to 3 hours. I should also note that I do have 70-something devices on my home network, so it totally makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. And it does really cool things. I had opened up port forwarding on my NanoLeaf lights at some point in time for a diagnostics test. So I opened that up, and then I forgot to close it. And after a while, my Firewalla was like, hey, by the way, this device has open port forwarding. Do you really want that? And I was like, I do not, thank you. So those are really useful things. Now, if you are a normal person and are like, I have open port for what? Huh? This might scare the heck out of you. So that's something to think about. Or you might Google it and learn a lot more, which, if you're that kind of person, great. You'll love it. So that was the Firewalla. And the Firewalla comes in a bunch of different flavors depending on your network speeds. So they've got, 100 megabit per second, a device for 100 megabit per second networks, all the way up to multi-gigabit networks. I have a Firewalla Purple for gigabit networks. I paid $349 for it. So that is 3.5 Eero subscriptions. That is what I had been running. About a month and a half ago, I unplugged it because I got a device called the Everything Set. And Everything Set is currently in a beta right now. So you can sign up and get one. I think it's only $10 right now, but eventually you're going to have to pay for the device and for an annual subscription. What Everything Set does is very similar in practice to like an Eero Secure. It monitors what's on your network and it looks at traffic flows, but it just gives you a score. So every week I get a security score. Like my first week, my security score was 10, which is like the highest. And I called them and I was like, it's 10. They're like, what? No one gets a 10. I was like, I got a 10. They're like, wow, you must have really secure network. And I was like, no, because I opened up that NanoLeaf port again. I was like, I have open ports on my network. They're like, we don't track that. I was like, okay. But apparently no one was using that open port to do anything weird. And that's what they were looking at. So I had that. And I found myself really frustrated with this particular service only because I was used to so much more. And over the last few weeks, my score has gone down. So now I'm like at a 9.8, which is still very good, apparently, since no one gets 10. I struggle with this because it doesn't give me enough information. What it does is it shares my reports that I get every week. It'll give me the base security score. It also tells me which devices are sending above average traffic, and it will call those out to me. So it'll be like, hey, your Google, it calls it a Chromecast, but it's really my Google displays, sent more data than normal. Is that normal? And I can think back and I'll be like, oh yeah, we were talking to Google a lot for some reason or whatever. We used it to watch Netflix. So it's helpful from that point of view. And it's certainly not as overwhelming. It is not a chatty patty, as you called it, Kevin. I feel like if you wanted to for your parents or your sister-in-law who's not technically savvy, this might be something nice just to kind of make sure that their house is a little bit more secure and give them peace of mind. This might be something that would be good for them.
It sounds like a meet in the middle solution, similar to what Eero provides, but not nearly as overwhelming as Firewalla. It seems like it's kind of abstracted things down to a more basic but useful information scheme. As you mentioned, it's $10 for the beta right now, where I guess they send you the box and you pay the $10 setup fee, and that's good for a year. But then after that, it is going to be a $100 annual subscription.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm paying the $99 for Eero, so I'm obviously fine with that.
Okay, and so, yeah, it's kind of equivalent to an Eero. It is less information. It lists all of your devices. It will let you know when it finds new devices. Oh, now I've got a 9 score. My score is steadily dropping, but it doesn't tell me why. And I've talked to the CEO, and he says that they're going to add more. So again, this is a beta, y'all. The plan is to update this and give me a little bit more information. They send me the amount of data that gets sent each week. They send me the number of messages that have sent. They do speed tests for me that do not seem like they're accurate, but that's okay.
Thinking about who this is for, I think you are correct in what you said, for people who are not techie, or you provide, support to your family. Like for me, I went with the Eero because it was so easy to just click a button and add that feature. A lot of lower cost routers don't have any such option. So maybe for families who have a very basic router system, mesh network system, where there aren't these kind of built-in or optional features, this could be a nice option.
Yeah, and they are planning on adding more, so I feel like it needs a little bit more to be valuable, I'll be honest. I feel like it's not as valuable as it could be yet. So
for $10 for a year to try it and see it mature is not a bad deal.
Well, yes, that's right. It's a beta.
Yeah, and if it doesn't pan out over the next year, you're like, hey, this isn't doing what I had hoped it would do, and that's it. You just don't pay the $100 for the next year.
True. Yeah, you're right. So that's how I'm securing my house at the moment and giving you some options. Again.
Hang on 1 second. I'm actually accessing your open
My
open,
right now. Thank you. Yes. Enjoy it. Okay. And one other news thing. This is concerning ARM. We talked about ARM a couple weeks ago. We talked about Qualcomm and ARM in their lawsuit. It's worth noting that ARM just added 2 new board members, and they added Paul Jacobs. And if you're unfamiliar, Paul Jacobs is the former CEO. His father was the founder of Qualcomm. He was the former CEO of Qualcomm. And they also added Rosemary Schooler. And Rosemary is the former head of data centers and networking and IoT, actually, for Intel. And so these are 2 really interesting board members, I think. So yeah, I'm just throwing that out there because it's relatively new news. It's probably, this is more server computing chip related, but it's ARM. And they do a lot of IoT chips, as you'll hear, because they are a sponsor. And I think it's 70% of their chips go into IoT devices. But clearly, servers are important for them. All right. Moving right along for our Internet of Things podcast hotline. This is the segment of the show where we talk to y'all. The hotline is sponsored by Silicon Labs. Silicon Labs Wi-Fi portfolio. It is designed specifically for the IoT, where multi-protocol, RF performance, ultra-low power consumption, and fast time to market are critical. You can learn more about Silicon Labs low-power Wi-Fi hardware, software, tools, and development kits at scilabs.com. All right. With the hotline, you can call us at 512-623-7424, and you will be entered to win. You're going to be entered to win what is our prize for December. Unfortunately, we can't tell you who the winner is because we still have a whole 24 more hours before that you can actually be entered to win. Not now, though, because we record a day before it goes out. This really means nothing to y'all. But for December, I'm like, in retrospect, means nothing for y'all. But next week, you'll find out the winner for the November drawing of Twinkly's Lights. For the month of December, you will be entered to win, I don't know yet. but we're going to come up with something great. And, if there's anything you specifically want to win, let us know. I've got a lot of dev kits, but I feel bad giving those to people because there's a very limited audience.
Yeah, something that you can plug and play is usually better than something you have to connect yourself. Get out the soldering iron for your free prize.
Not that I don't think many of y'all would be like totally able to do it, but I'm like, that seems like a lot. We'll come up with that. So this week, our voicemail question
is really a tip, not a question. And it's actually very, very cool.
Yes. So let's hear it.
Hi, Stacey and Kevin. Thanks for a great show. I mainly wanted to call in with a tip. I have a few different medications that I have to take each day and wanted a smart home way to be able to do it without using like a pill organizer because some of them are inhalers, so they don't really fit in those. And I found attaching the magnetic end of a Akara door window sensor to it and then leaving the sensor basically in my bathroom cabinet makes it so I can get automated messages to remind me to take my pills if I haven't by a certain time or use my inhaler. It's helped keep me on track, and I thought it might help some others. I didn't know if you guys had any other recommendations of something similar to that. Thanks. Bye.
That is an excellent tip, and I'm kind of sad that I have not used an open-close. I feel like I used an open-close sensor on my liquor cabinet to see if anyone was opening it. But tying it to a schedule and a timer to be like, did you take your medicine? I really haven't thought about it that way, but you're right. Good thinking there. And I think actually with Matter, it could get more interesting because you could now, instead of just a notification on your phone, if you like tie it to the medicine cabinet and you haven't opened it, you could have like a light that would go off and turn a different color. Like, so if you had a colored light bulb, it could be like, red, you haven't taken your medicine. Or if someone's pulling energy from a smart plug, it could be like red because they've turned on the hot water kettle. I don't know. The curling iron. Oh my gosh. I could know about the curling iron being on. Anyway.
I like the DIY aspect of this and the reuse of like a magnetic sensor because if there are plenty of smart connected pill dispensers out on the market. I think the least expensive I've seen is like the $100 Hero device.
Yeah, but then you've got this whole new app you've got to download.
Not only that, but a lot of them have subscriptions for refills and all kinds of other things that are just, let's not complicate it. This is a nice, simple solution that a lot of people could use for, either reuse a sensor, maybe a door window sensor or something like that costs them $20.
Again, with Matter coming out, we're going to see a lot more that are interoperable, and that's going to be awesome for this. Ooh, I'm so excited about it. Okay, great tip. We appreciate it. And next week, we'll announce our winner and tell you what you're going to win for December on the IoT Podcast hotline. And if you would like to give us a call, you can reach us at 512-623-7424. And now that concludes this segment of the show. Please stay tuned for our guest, Rebecca Torman, who is the business lead at IKEA HomeSmart. We're going to be talking about the new IKEA Smart Home Hub, and we have been saying it wrong this whole time. So you'll hear me try to pronounce it, and you'll hear Rebecca pronounce it correctly, and a lot more. But first, a message from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is ARM. Hey everyone, we are taking a quick break from the Internet of Things podcast for a message from our sponsor. And this week's sponsor is ARM. And today we're going to be talking with Thomas Lorenzer, who is Director of General Purpose Compute, IoT, at ARM. Okay, so what is ARM doing in the IoT?
At ARM, we are focused sharply on empowering our partners and the software developer ecosystem to excel in unlocking the opportunities of the IoT. Essentially, we are focused on three key areas. Firstly, at ARM, the ARM ecosystem has the largest computational footprint on the planet. Our partners shipped over 29 billion ARM-based chips in 2021. Around 70% of these were designed for IoT and embedded applications. This computational footprint is rapidly evolving to match the workloads of tomorrow. Secondly, we believe rapid, innovative software development is key to the next phase of IoT. We are razor focused on enabling developers for offerings like ARM Virtual Hardware. And finally, we are very committed to standardization initiatives driving the advancement of the IoT.
Excellent. Can you tell us a bit more about ARM's initiatives aimed at driving standardization where it matters in the IoT?
For example, at the IoT edge and endpoints, there's a very diverse set of use cases driving diverse set of requirements into IoT platforms, both from a hardware and software perspective. Software development requires an alignment across the software stack all the way up to the cloud. However, some of those software efforts are non-differentiating for our ecosystem partners. The standardization efforts of these non-differentiating aspects of the stack allow the ecosystem to reuse common parts while focusing their resources and energy on differentiation. ARM initiatives such as PSA Certified, Project Cassini, and Project Centauri were all designed to address these critical challenges that our partners are facing across security and software development to enable faster development at scale.
And how is ARM supporting efforts such as Matter?
As many of you will already know, the Connectivity Standards Alliance, which ARM has collaborated with for many years, recently released the Meta 1.0 standard and certification program. At ARM, we are very closely working with the Alliance to ensure that the ARM ecosystem is ready to support product developers in building these devices, including a project to explore the integration of ARM virtual hardware into the Meta CI/CD infrastructure. This will ensure that product developers can instantly access a scalable virtual test environment that maps directly to the wide ecosystem of IoT computing platforms. Stay tuned for more developments in this area.
Excellent. So where can I go to find out more about ARM?
Read our latest blog on arm.com/IoT-standards for more information. This is arm.com/IoT-standards.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and today's guest is Rebecca Torman, who is the business leader at IKEA Home Smart. Hello, Rebecca. How are you today?
Hi, Stacey. I'm fine. How are you?
Excellent. And I'm really excited. We had you on the show, so long ago, like 4.5, 5 years ago, but welcome back.
Thank you. It was 4.5. I think it was in the beginning of 2018, I think.
Excellent. So we're going to be talking about your new home hub. We'll talk about cool things such as Matter. But first, let's just get an update on where IKEA's vision around the smart home is, simply because y'all take a very unique perspective. And I would love for you to talk about what it is and how that may have changed in the last 4.5, 5 years.
Yeah, so I think the vision has not changed, because the vision of the smart home is, of course, to create a better everyday life for the many people. It's the same vision that we have at IKEA. And the way that we do that at IKEA Home Smart is of course to combine the technology and digital solutions with physical products, and of course with our home furnishing offer from IKEA. And we are then pouring all of those, soon then to be 80 years of life at home expertise and experience and knowledge into that, to really create valuable solutions for everyone in the home. But knowing that, then of course a lot has happened since we last talked in 2018. So we can touch upon a couple of those things, because at that point in time, as we said, then we had launched smart lighting. So we had our range of smart bulbs and remotes, but also then we had the tråd-free gateway, which is the hub that you need. So we were basically there, but there were so many things sort of ahead of us that now has happened. And one of those things is that we have launched many more product areas. And in 2019, then we launched two areas or two segments. One being then our speaker range, Symfonisk, that we have done together with Sonos. The other area is our smart blinds, so Kadrilli Fyrtur we started with, but now which are then roller blinds, and nowadays we then also have cellular blinds in that offer. The last addition to our range was then that last year we also launched Starkwind. It is then a range of air purifiers. So now we then have an even broader product range than what we had then in 2018. And we also then have newly launched, which I hope that we will come back to, Dirigera Hub, and then the new IKEA Home Smart app. So a lot has happened on our range side, or the offer that we now have for the customers. But then I also remember that we talked a lot about sustainability at that point in time. And then there we have also actually had lots of things happen. One thing is that since we then talked, we have now communicated our sustainability goals from IKEA. And one of those things is that we are very committed to, for our then business, for IKEA, to become circular by 2030. And then we are then also committed to, by 2030, only use recycled or renewable materials. So that is also a very important thing that has happened, and something, of course, we are very proud of to be a part of.
So I know a lot has happened in 5 years. I also wanted to ask kind of two things, because way back then, IKEA HomeSmart was not its own business unit. It was a thing, but it wasn't like its own individual thing. So I'm curious why that happened and what that means for the types of products you'll release. And then y'all do have kind of, I don't want to call it a weird lineup of products, but it's definitely unique in the quote unquote smart home sector. So I'd love to understand kind of why those particular products.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take them one by one. So the first question was IKEA HomeSmart being now a department. We have been that since 2020. It comes, of course, from that IKEA is betting big on smart homes as a way of solving then customer needs that we have not been able to do before, and really creating a more or a better everyday life at home. And it means that we are getting now then all the preconditions and all then the tools that all the conventional businesses or the conventional parts of IKEA is getting. So for us, it's great. And then your second question was regarding then the range, right?
Yes, I'm just wondering, you've got smart bulbs, you've got the air purifiers, the blinds, the speakers. I don't know if the charging table is part of that, but it's definitely a different lineup from other smart home companies, which tend to focus on things like security.
Yeah, so I think for us, it has always been very important to come from homes, to come from life at home. We have soon 80 years of expertise and knowledge into this. And we do actually hundreds of home visits every year. We talk to very, very many customers all around the world, globally, every year. And of course, from that, we get lots of insights in both challenges that people are facing in their daily lives, but also dreams that they have. And I think from that knowledge, we are basing then what is it that we want to offer the customers. And therefore, we have the product areas that we have. And I think when we pick a product area, when we pick to step into something, we are doing that then with the belief that we can really solve these needs that we have learned, but also that we can do that in a way that really can meet the many people in a good way, so that we can then deliver on our idea of democratic design. So we have products then with good functionality, with fantastic quality, with good form, with good sustainability, and of course with a price so that as many people as possible can afford them. But take them, for example, the last area that we launched, which was then our air purifiers. That also comes from IKEA having decided that it is 5 areas that we want to focus on to then develop products to fulfill needs within, to make then our customers be able to live a more sustainable and or a more healthy life at home. And those areas are energy, air, water, food, and waste. And of course, then air, taking that, we hear that from customers that the awareness of air is increasing, but you might not know really how to act on it. And we also then know from, for example, from the World Health Organization, that air pollution is the single biggest global health threat. So sort of combining those two, we know that there is a need there for products. And therefore, we went then into and say, okay, how could we then take this area and sort of apply our magic on it? And therefore, then we decided to look into air purifiers. And then we approach that as in what we're doing, all of the areas that we're stepping into. Okay, what can we do here to sort of see how we can make products that are blending into homes and into lives at home the best way possible. And there, for example, with air purifiers, we launched an air purifier in the shape of a table, knowing then that space is precious for many people. So being able then to do these multifunctional products is very good. And we have then built in as much smartness as we can in these products. For example, we have a sensor built in these air purifiers so that the customer have to do as little as possible so that you can just put the air purifier on auto mode and it runs by itself. And on top of that, we have then worked a lot with the filters, which you could say are the heroes of the air purifiers. How can we make that as easy as possible, but also honestly as affordable as possible? Because for us, we really think that it should be as affordable as possible to start with the air purifier, but also, of course, to then later buy the filters. So we sometimes think about this as that we want to enable a really also low cost of ownership throughout the life of the product.
Yeah, I can't tell if I'm living in the most dystopian society that I've got an air purifying table, which is actually quite brilliant because I live in the West Coast of the US and we have fire season every year now. And so we totally use it. And it is very handy not to have, I actually own 4 or 5 air purifiers now. So it is my favorite simply because I can actually do things with it. So that's good, but also kind of like sad. Let's talk a little bit about hubs. We'll switch from your product mix over to hubs because y'all recently launched, and I'm going to give this a whirl. We've been calling it the Dirigera, and that is wrong, y'all. It is Swedish for connected, as we mentioned, I think, last week on the show. And it is the Dirigera. Oh, I messed it up. Rebecca, go for it. Pronounce it for us.
Dirigera.
Dirigera.
Yeah.
You've launched this new hub. Talk to us about what you've learned from Tradfri and what you've tried to bring into Dirigera.
Yeah. You know, it means conductor in Swedish. So it really is.
Conductor, not connected.
No, conductor. So it's, I'm almost seeing this conductor sort of waving in homes, trying to bring everything together. And that is sometimes, as we talk about it, it is the brain and the heart of your smart home. Yeah, it really is an exciting time because for us, of course, a lot has happened since we launched the Tradfri Gateway in 2017. So it's quite some years ago. And of course, at that point in time, as we talked a little bit about, we only had smart lighting in our range. And after that, of course, our range have grown a lot. Now we have all of these different product areas that we didn't have at that point in time. Also, then on the industry side, a lot of things have happened from technology, from a standard perspective. And Tradfri Gateway is then limited when it comes to hardware and software. And we were seeing that from then what we want to do in the future, we had to update it.
It was limited in the sense of the hardware capabilities?
Yeah, exactly. For example, it was limited in memory and computing. So, and on top of that, then we also had learned a lot that we wanted to take action on or to sort of deliver with this new system, with the new app and with the new hub. And I think that has really honestly been a joy to work with that and to make this new system, this new hub and this new app really based on all of those learnings. So one thing that we have worked a lot with is, of course, to lower the thresholds for everyone wanting to start their smart home journey. You should not have to have any type of pre-knowledge or expertise in this area whatsoever. And then we know that the onboarding process or the pairing process is very important. So that we have worked a lot with. And then some people loved the onboarding process that we had with Fraud-Free Gateway, and some people did not. So we tried then to take the good parts from that and then add on improvements. So there, for example, with the new app, with the new hub, you do not have to use remotes for onboarding our products. That we know that lots of people love. And you can also onboard several devices at once. We have how-to videos that we're using so that it's easier for you. You could say that we are really taking you by your hand, and if you don't want, we're not letting go. So really, from the first press, you should feel that you are in good hands. And what we're hearing now then is that lots of people love the onboarding process. And of course, that's great for us to hear. We did tons of user research and lots of user testing. So we were pretty confident that people would love it. But of course, it's great to get that confirmation now when we have launched it. Another thing that we have worked and we have taken from Fraud-Free Gateway and the old app is that many customers and users said to us that they loved that we were not really overwhelming, I should say, them with the features and functionality. And that is something that we're trying to work with here as well. Really, that if you are the type of user that just want to press one time somewhere and get lots of value, you should be able to do that. Whereas then if you are a user that want to maybe have more flexibility, more personalization, you can do that, and then you can drill a little bit deeper. So we have made sure that it is flexible in that way. And then we also have personalization options in a way that we didn't have before. And another thing actually that we have worked with is that, and that was also very evident from before, that is many people want to communicate with us. It can be that they have questions, they have feature requests, or they just want to say hi and give feedback. And now then in the new app, we have a totally new section then for then customer support or customer care, where we are displaying then a number of ways for the user to get in contact with us. And our idea is also for the future that we will co-create much more with the users and that we can develop features together. So that is also very exciting and something that we are looking forward to. And we are also very excited for the future because we have tons of things lined up that we are eager to release.
Let's talk about one that we know is going to happen, which is a Matter update, because y'all are participating in the Matter Smart Home Interoperability Standard. And this is Matter ready, the new hub?
Yeah, it's ready in the sense that when we are then ready for Matter, we will turn it on.
Yes. So the physical hardware is there. It will support it eventually. So talk to me about, one, the decision to participate in Matter, and then two, how we should expect y'all to roll that out now that the cert is live.
So I think, as I said previously, we are at IKEA very interested in lowering then the thresholds for stepping into a smart home and using a smart home, because we truly believe that it brings a better everyday life at home for the many people. And what Matter is bringing are improvements in some of the areas that we know that lots of users and customers have challenges with. So it will then enable a more simple, a more interoperable, and of course a more secure smart home. And all of those areas are very important for us. What will happen now then when it comes to Matter is that we will take the first step. And for us, it is, of course, a long-term journey that we are on to. And now it has just been launched. And for us, it marks sort of the direction that we are going. But the first step for us then is that Dirigera will become a Matter bridge.
Does that mean it will act as a Matter controller, or does that mean it will act as a bridge to bring all of my IKEA air purifier lights, etc., into a Matter ecosystem?
The latter. So it will act as a bridge.
Excellent. Okay. And I will let you know that I have Dirigera
Yeah,
hub,
yeah.
and I tried it out. Well, I haven't fully tried it out. I've basically added it to my collection, but I did want to throw out something that I thought was really good. Y'all have done a really good job explaining your privacy policies and the data that y'all collect and what y'all do with the data in a way that I thought was really I gave it to my kid and I said, "Hey, can you read this and tell me if you understand it?" And they said, "Yeah, I get this. This is okay." And they felt comfortable using it, which was surprising because my child hates, we call it Madam A, but the Amazon Echo is very concerned about that. So can you talk about, is this just because GDPR? Like what kind of drove the plain language behind your data usage and privacy policies?
I think it comes from that we want everything to be as easy as we possibly can. Easy to understand, easy to start, easy to use. And that comes, of course, with the privacy policy as well. And I get super happy when I hear that you and your daughter liked it, because we have put a lot of effort into making it as transparent, but also as clear to understand as we possibly can. If we are writing something, we of course want it to be understandable in an easy way. So super happy that you recognize those efforts as well, and we hope that everyone will read it, because we have put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, most notable is y'all don't sell my data to third parties. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. Okay. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on the show this week. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me anytime.
And that concludes this week's episode of the Internet of Things podcast. Please join us next Thursday and don't forget to subscribe. And if you can't get enough IoT news, I would love for you to sign up at www.stacyoniot.com for our weekly IoT newsletter, where we explain all kinds of things that we don't even get to on the show. Once again, thank you for listening and please subscribe.